Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the inaugural episode of Superintendents Unplugged, In Depth with Davis, the podcast where we'll dive deep into the world of educational leadership. I'm your host, Addison Davis, and I'm thrilled to have you join me as we embark on the inspiring journey together. As a superintendent once myself, I understand the challenges and complexities that come with leading a school district. But what I've come to realize is that there's abundance of amazing work being done by superintendents all across our country. This podcast is a platform to shine a spotlight on their incredible accomplishments and innovative approaches. Each episode will bring you exclusive interviews and superintendents from various districts across our country, both big and small, urban and rural, as they share their personal stories, triumphs, and even their moments of vulnerability. We will explore the strategies they employ to tackle the ever-evolving landscape of education, from fostering equity and inclusivity to embracing technology and preparing students for their future. But this podcast isn't just about showcasing success. It's about fostering a community of educational leaders who can learn from one another, share their experiences, and collectively navigate the complexities of our role. We'll discuss the tough topics as well, the difficult decisions, and the innovative solutions that are transforming education for the better. So while you're an educator, a parent, a student, or simply someone who's passionate about education, this podcast is for you. Superintendents Unplugged is your behind-the-scenes pass to the world of educational leadership, where we uncover the stories that inspire, motivate, and empower every one of us. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and entertained as we embark on this incredible journey together. I can't wait to introduce you to the remarkable superintendents who are changing the educational landscape one district at a time. Welcome to another episode of Superintendents Unplugged. I'm Addison Davis, your host, and today we have a very special guest from Navigator Schools, Caprice Young. Thank you so very much for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So you've had let's get right into it. You've had a number of journeys in the superintendency, and for where you were before to where you are now. Talk about that journey. What does it look like, and where does it brought you to where you are today?
Well, this was never something that was on my radar screen.
Be superintendent.
Yeah, no, it was not on my radar screen when I was a kid. My mom was a special ed teacher. My dad was a juvenile probation officer, and I grew up in a foster home. My parents were the biologically connected parents, so I have 36 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And I was going to be a journalist or a policy wonk.
Okay.
And what happened was after a career in finance and technology, not journalism or policy wonk,
all those other elements you wanted
but finance and technology in the 90s, I got frustrated with how foster kids were being treated by the traditional public school system and ran for the school board in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
So I spent 4 years on the school board in Los Angeles.
Oh, my gosh.
Never went back to IBM.
Who was the superintendent then?
Several.
In your 4 years?
Yeah.
Gosh.
We started with Ruben Zacharias. And we had Ramon Cortinas as our interim superintendent. I was on the board that hired him the first time in Los Angeles. And then we hired Governor Roy Romer to be our superintendent, who was terrific.
I'm saying, I used to study and watch what he did. He was good.
Well, and I think that one of the things that he understood about California is that so much of the education policy and power is actually located in our state capital. And that's part of the reason why we wanted him to be our superintendent, because
that connectivity, right?
Yeah, as a school board, we knew that we had to work closely with the legislature, and boy, having been a governor and having been a national leader in education.
No-brainer.
Yep. Plus, he also really prioritized, and this was back in 1999-2000 when we hired him. He started summer of 2000. Back in that time, he was supportive of our push towards the science of reading and re-injecting phonics back into our curriculum.
Foundation of everything.
Yeah, and that was more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
school board member, what happened?
Yeah, so I was a school board member. I didn't go back to didn't go back
left
to IBM.
Behind. Went to school board.
Yeah, no, I started.
That's fun.
I started an organization called the California Charter Schools Association.
Okay.
And and part of the reason why I love charter schools is, you know, when I go to traditional public schools, I get complaint as a school board member. And I'd go to a charter school and they would be like, you gotta come see our robotics lab. You know, this kind of positivity and empowerment. And that was, you know, that's exciting to me. So since then, I've been the leader of 5 different charter management organizations.
Wow. Across the nation.
Across the nation, all different kinds. So I've served students who have dropped out or been pushed out of high school. I have served as a superintendent of a STEM school that we turned into a STEAM school. It was
That's cool.
A group of a dozen schools. I've also now have the opportunity to lead Navigator Schools.
Yeah.
And we are serving predominantly sons and daughters of people in the agriculture industry on the Central Coast in California.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, man, it is so cool.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, for anyone who hasn't worked with immigrant families, there are all these stereotypes, you know, like, oh, well, they're poor, so they don't care about education. Can I tell you, it is just the opposite.
I agree with you.
It is absolutely the opposite.
100%. In Hillsborough County, we had a large number of immigrant families, and one thing I can tell you, they valued and appreciated education every day.
Yep.
Every single day. So thank you for saying that.
Well, in Hillsborough, I mean, I grew up in California, but my parents moved us to Tampa, Florida,
From Cali to Hillsborough.
Right.
Former superintendent, also graduate.
Yeah, I graduated from C. Leon King High School in Tampa, Florida.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, your old stomping grounds.
I know, but, that's really cool. And so
30 years before.
And how long were you in Tampa?
Only one semester.
One semester.
Yeah, I got moved there by my parents like right before my senior year of high school, which, you know, for any parents that might be watching this, I do not recommend moving your senior right before
you graduate.
But I got tremendous support from the principal and the teachers there.
That's awesome.
Made some good friends, and you know, I was there until not quite the end of the first semester, and then I quit. But when I got accepted to college in April, they helped me like get my credits and
awesome.
Go on to college.
Good for you. So West Coast, East Coast, back to West Coast.
Right.
Awesome. So let's jump into Navigator Schools. So how many kids are we serving? You know, tell us a little bit about the community in which you're creating some special moments for kids every day.
Well, we have 4 schools that are either already TK to 8th grade.
Okay.
In
TK to 8th, all right.
And a couple of them, they're on their way to growing to TK.
Wow.
They're not there yet, but they're on their way. And so one school is TK6.
Yeah.
We've got another that is TK5, and then 2 that are already K8.
Gotcha.
So, and in California, there's funding for 4-year-olds.
Okay.
Which is so important.
Wow.
I mean, we're
that's awesome.
Huge
Full
growth.
funding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's early kindergarten, and what we find is the kids who start with TK are almost a full grade level ahead by the time they get to 1st grade.
Wow.
It really is amazing getting them into school early.
Yeah, so it's awesome that structure. I haven't really seen that structure in many public district managed schools, but we've got to get better in that process. Thank you for the innovation of creating it, because the more that we get students accustomed into our content and the exposure to peers, exposure to educators, and getting into a system, the better we're going to be able to build foundational skills from academics, behavior, to emotional, social, that they can interact and have positive trends all the way through. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what we find, you know, with our TK age kids and our kindergarten age kids is they want to read.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, kids need to learn to love reading by having the adults read to the kids. What we find is it's the kids, when they're reading to the adults, that they really love reading because they're proud of these skills that they have. And so most of our kids are reading by kindergarten or 1st grade.
Wow. And early childhood is so important in this process. Yeah. You know, we also talk about, first of all, I love the notion of getting 3-year-old and 4-year-old programs. For the school districts that have open classrooms or looking for public-private partnerships, bring in these partnerships to be able to get 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds on your campuses. It is so important. Caprice is completely right in this process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about innovation. So while you have access to, little ones all the way through middle school, what's the innovation space look like in Navigator Schools?
Well, this is my true joy of leading.
I see it.
Of leading the Navigator Schools. Yeah. I only started there a year ago, so I can't actually take credit for any of it.
Okay.
But it is my honor and pleasure to be able to brag about all the work that my team has done. Because if you were just thinking about it as from a test score perspective, our test scores are 2 and 3 times higher than the schools around us with the exact same demographics of students. And that's because we're just putting a ton of effort into our educators. Yeah. Right?
Love that.
Yeah, but the whole strategy behind the schools is if you can create the top tier educator workforce who are creatively engaged in the work that they're doing every day and who are not at all defensive about coaching and continuous improvement.
Right.
That spirit of positivity and innovation and getting better permeates the classroom. Sure. And that's why it works. That's why it works. It's because every single instructor that we have gets at least 30 minutes of coaching every week. Wow. Every week. And it's not the kind of coaching that that some teachers hate. We're just 5 people come in with their clipboards and is that poster in the right spot? Yeah. No, it's actually somebody who's sitting down in your classroom.
A thought partner, right?
Thinking about things. They're coming in when you say, if you're the teacher, when you say you need them. Hey, I'm working on this math lesson, for example. Come on in. Tell me how I can reach more students. Yeah. The other thing that we do is we have a small group instructor in every classroom. Wow. So teachers are not by themselves. Wow. And those small group instructors are kind of part of the program. Not kind of. They are definitely part of the program. Yeah. So if you were to walk into one of our 3rd grade classrooms, what you would see, for example, is students in 3 centers. One center where the teacher is using direct instruction with the students who have a particular skill that they're working on. Another center where the students are online using integrated technology like ST Math or other programs that are targeted to that individual student's level. Right. And then another center that's led by the small group instructor that is usually doing skills-based practice. Yeah. And that makes it possible for the students to really progress and also, frankly, for the instructors to not be as exhausted. Yeah. Right. If you're managing 24 to 30 kindergartners or even
bless you, first of all, you're doing that.
Or 3rd graders all by yourself. Yeah. Forget it. Yeah. Right.
Love the instructional framework. Love the being able to see independent practice, strategic practice, small group instruction. All that is powerful, and I love the fact that you double down and put someone in every classroom to help teachers. That's got to be psychologically refreshing to a teacher to know that they have someone to be able to help them look at skills, to be able to help with accelerating multiple standards and triangulate information to inform and prescribe the work for children. Awesome. I wish I could have done that and afforded that in my districts, but congrats to you for making that a reality, because it's definitely needed.
And financially, we don't get any more money than anybody else. Yeah.
So you're just making it a priority.
We'll make it a priority. Yeah. There are other things that we don't do because we do that. Part of it is I have, fewer central office administrators, so I can keep the money on the school site in the classrooms. Yeah. But that's just what's necessary.
I love it. And you know what? I hear oftentimes there's not enough money. We don't have money. There's always money that are and it's connected to your priorities. You want to look at a school district's priorities, follow the funding. If we're trying to accelerate learning, if we're trying to make certain that we address any gaps that exist from an intellectual perspective, double down on classrooms and eliminating district office spaces to be able to put money into the classroom. It's the right thing to do, and that's awesome that you're doing it. So thank you for being a model for that.
What I've seen in the school districts where I've led and worked also is, because programs often develop a political constituency, they tend to not be ended even if they're not working,
Okay.
right? And so if we as superintendents can really do more of what works, and here's the key part, less of what doesn't work, and be able to know and articulate the difference,
Sure.
that's key. We have to make choices.
That's right.
And sometimes it's, as a superintendent, it's easier to just say, okay, well, you guys love that program, so even though it's not working, you just stay in your corner
Sure.
over there,
Yeah.
and over here we're going to do what's working. And the truth is, if you really want progress, you have to convince people to stop doing
Sure.
what's not working.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. You got something cool going on in your middle school.
We do.
What's up with that? Tell me, a lot of cool things out of this conversation, but what's going on with middle school?
Well, so I have to tell you, so our schools,
There's the excitement right here. Loves her job.
This is so my favorite thing in the whole wide world is to walk into a classroom where the kids are all sort of leaning in and doing something on task together, where it's just absolutely clear that they love
magical moments every day.
Yeah, and the Navigator Schools, being located about 45 to 50 miles outside of Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, in Watsonville and Hollister and Gilroy and Hayward, which, except for Hayward, is agricultural country. Our founders also were 49ers fans.
Okay.
Right? So they're thinking football.
Yeah.
And so a squad is a football thing.
Sure.
And so all of our middle school students are in squads. So if you were to walk into a 6th grade class, you would see, looking around the room, 10 squads, and in some cases 9 squads, of 3 students, each student having their own role in that squad. So it could be somebody who's responsible for writing down what the group is talking about, and another that is responsible for keeping time, and another who is leading the program. And so the teachers do some direct instruction, but then the students are engaged in actual project-based work in these squads, and the students have rotating leaders who the teachers teach the previous day on how to teach the work, so that it's actually students teaching students.
Sure.
And that has led to huge engagement. Our scores went way, way, way up.
Wow.
And it really has to do with the fact that, like, if you can lean in on what tweens care about, which is interacting with each other, right? And have it like be in the context of this learning community, it gets knocked out of the park. And my team won something called an RTAC grant, which is a regional kind of grant to be able to train other schools in how to do this process.
Cool.
So we now have this collaboration with 30 other schools where they're starting to do these squads also.
That's awesome.
And I'm just so proud of my people, and I'm proud of my kids and my teachers for having this.
I mean, thank you to your teachers for having the courage to do it, right? Because sometimes releasing responsibility comes hard. And in that process, leaning on students to be the facilitators of learning, and the educator being able to selectively identify where he or she may be needed in those particular moments, coaching, modeling, all those elements. And that's really cool to be able to do. This is about student ownership. This is about students demonstrating understanding of content, but also taking leadership initiatives and really driving the work and really creating skills that will last forever in this process.
That's right. Well, and your point about skills that last forever is a really good one, and that's kind of where the idea came from, because our educators wanted to inject more 21st century learning skills into the classroom, but they didn't want to say, okay, now we're going to have a unit on 21st century learning skills. We want to just do it. And so the students, they're still studying science or social studies or literature, but they're doing it, learning collaboration and facilitation and time management, all of those things that we want our kids to come through this with. And I think the other really important thing is that we're doing it in middle school, right? I think some people would say, no, let's do that in high school. But the truth is,
I agree.
Like, middle school is when students they're locking into their own identity. And if they can have this experience of both social and academic success in middle school. Massive.
Listen, middle school is where they're trying to figure out who they are socially, emotionally, intellectually, where they fit, you're right, how they define who they are as learners, as community engagement members, and I think that the structure, the opportunity creates endless possibilities for kids. So, well, Caprice, thank you so very much for spending the time with us today.
My pleasure.
Really cool to listen to your experience from, other elements, non-educational school board member. Oh, we're just going to go run some school districts across the nation, and then here we are back again in Navigator Schools and doing some cool things for kids, and really focusing on the importance of early childhood. I think that's fascinating. Again, here we are today with Caprice Young, the superintendent of Navigator Schools, doing some really special things for kids. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you in the Superintendent's Unplugged, In Depth with Davis.